You know, a lot of the helpful content marketing you and I talk about requires someone to be in front of a camera or behind a microphone. And for many business owners, that's a scary proposition. But there is another way, the way of the spokesperson. Today's guest has been using spokespeople to front their marketing for years, and it's paying off big time. Before we get stuck into episode 403 of the Small Business Big Marketing Show, the marketing gold is made possible thanks to American Express, who have a suite of business cards specifically designed to meet the needs of you, the small business owner. So whether you're looking for a charge card or a business credit card, simply search Amex Business to find out how your business expenses can reward you. And now, on with the show.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show, where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to the Small Business Big Marketing Show. I'm your host, Timbo Reid. You, infinitely more importantly, are a motivated business owner ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it deserves to be. It's exactly what we do around here. It's why we exist. And big show today, of course. Brent Hutchinson from Terrain Tamer 4-wheel drive shares how successful his spokesperson strategy has been in growing the family business. Listener James Ray shares a very personal story with a very happy ending and some great advice. And Melbourne SEO Services Dave Jennings and I will tell you how we feel about the mountain of spammy email offering cheap SEO solutions and what you can do about it. Probably hit delete to start with. As per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in.
Do you need a speaker for your next conference? Recommend Timbo to your event organiser. Or better still, book him. Tim Reid, that's reid.com.au.
I love getting letters and emails from you guys, and this one is no different. It's from listener James Ray of Talking Stones. It came in just as I was about to hit record on putting this episode together. It's very optimistic. It's very inspirational. It's got some great advice, and I would love to share it with you. It starts off saying, thank you, Timbo, and a small business big marketing community health announcement. James says, hey, Timbo, I've been a fan of the Small Business Big Marketing podcast since early double figures. Wow, that's years ago, hundreds of episodes ago. Thank you, James. After you kindly read out a hand-typed thank you note I sent you, I became a super fan. Good on you. Love super fans. I don't know what that means, but I'm honoured to have at least one. Shortly after this, I was diagnosed with bowel cancer and had a major operation to save my life. And here is the Small Business Big Marketing community announcement. Please, if you are over 40, have a colonoscopy. Mine saved my life. If I'd left it a year or so, I'd probably have ended up dying of cancer. I've now recovered from my life-saving operation, and I'm planning 2018 to be a big year for my business. I've got great staff who love what they do. I can't let them, my family, or customers down. It is so exciting. Wow, James, mate, you have had, life-changing kind of stuff happening over there, and it looks like you've come out the other end. He goes on to say, I just wanted to thank you for what you do. Well, thank you for what you do, James. You're the reason I do it. You and many other motivated business owners out there who overcome adversity. I'm a multiple small business owner who struggles with prioritising competing priorities across my businesses. And I regularly have to drive Sydney to Brisbane, Sydney to Melbourne, and Sydney and beyond. On this week's road trip, how's this? Sydney to Brisbane and beyond, I worked my way back across 20 hours of the Small Business Big Marketing podcast catalogue. And it gave me the motivation. That's fantastic. Thank you. But there is a reason he did that, and there is a good outcome from having done that. 20 hours of me? I couldn't even handle that. And I live with it. It gave me the motivation to reach out and approach some key vendors and prospects that I've been putting off contacting. The great lesson there, whether you listen to this show or a great audio book or just something positive and motivational, it will push you to get off your bum and do things that maybe you haven't done or needed to do for a while. James goes on to say, it's too early to know what may come of this, but at least as a result of your podcast, I've taken action. Going back over your podcast gave me motivation to do that. The single characteristic across all your guests was each one of them took action. That's a key learning, methinks. James, you couldn't be righter, mate. Taking action is everything. Everything you hear on this show is simply ideas and sometimes a lot of hot air. But when they turn into action, they can be measurable and have a really positive impact on your business. James goes on to say, in any case, please keep doing what you're doing. I will. It is making a real difference to many people like me, and it has a knock-on effect to my staff, my family, my partners in our business. So that's fantastic. Timbo, we are listening. You are adding value, and we do appreciate it. Oh, thank you. Insert smiley face here, says James. And I'm sending you a virtual firm handshake. Oh, as opposed to the limp fish-like handshake, which does my head in. One day I hope to serendipitously, is that a word? Yeah, something like that, bump into you and have the opportunity to buy you a drink or pay for a meal. James Ray, talkingstones.com.au, I guess, yes. Mate, that's a wonderful note. Very great way to start the show, up and about. And it plays into an upcoming guest you and I are going to meet, Damien Lee, who currently is a founder and owner of Mr. Lee's Noodles. I interview him actually tomorrow for an episode in a few weeks' time, but he's overcome not one but two primary cancers in his life, and he's doing what he loves. James, you're an inspiration, buddy. Thank you. Righto, that brings us to today's guest, Brent Hutchinson, whose family own Terrain Tamer four-wheel drive, a four-wheel drive parts business that's 49 years old and employs 135 staff out of Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, the world. Now, Brent caught my attention years ago when he was successfully producing these helpful four-wheel drive videos. He was burning them to DVD. That sounds so old school. Burn it on DVD, and inserted them into a national four-wheel drive magazine. These videos that he was created, it got to the point where the magazine needed Brent and his business more than he needed the magazine, which is a pretty good spot to get to, really. Terrain Tamer continued to produce fantastically helpful videos that are having a huge impact on their bottom line, and they're using a suite of spokespeople, including an old mechanic, a young mechanic, plus a truck driver called Jillaroo Jess. Now, if you want to watch a couple of these videos before listening to the interview to sort of get a sense of what we're talking about, although I do endeavour to describe as we go, then you can head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/403 and see a couple of the videos. Anyway, let's go and meet Brent again. So, Brent Hutchinson, welcome back to the Small Business Big Marketing Show.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it. It's good to be back.
Episode 70, now around episode 400 and something. So I'm guessing you've got a fair bit to tell us. But before we get stuck into the kind of marketing that you guys are doing, there's a lot of four-wheel drives on the road these days, and I'm guessing most don't find their way off the road. Do you get a laugh from that?
We do. It's funny enough, they're not the customer you target. If you target, in our industry, the aspirational or the one that actually does the work, then the aspirational ones follow. So even though they might actually be a bigger part of the market, they're not the ones that they end up being. Yeah, they end up following, I guess.
Well, I've been guilty of owning a couple of Range Rovers, and it might have gone onto an unsealed road.
Okay.
That's all.
Was it fully equipped to do everything? And
look, I don't want to embarrass myself too much, mate, but I did. Oh gosh, I wish I'd known you back then. They did use the airbags, the suspension airbags. My gosh, I'd wake up in the morning, look out the window just to see if it was, sitting on its haunches or was actually still upright.
Yeah, big boys' toys.
I digress. Now, you guys have come a long way at Terrain Tamer four-wheel drive. Describe the content marketing that you're really focusing on these days.
I hear the word described in your podcast quite often, and which is terrific, and it's probably something that's...
What word?
Content.
Yeah.
Content. And something that we've done for over 10 years now, so we're probably a little bit ahead of the curve, particularly early. But essentially we were preparing videos that people, educational videos that we found or try to make humorous and enjoyable that people would then get onto and start learning about rebuilding their four-wheel drive, and then obviously using Terrain Tamer parts all the way through them. We're able to educate our customer base that we had the parts and what they could do with them.
So that was your original stuff. You were doing these DVDs with Alan, this old fellow, putting them in four-wheel drive magazines. I remember in our first interview, the magazine needed you more than you needed the magazine, which was a great, place to be for a small business.
Yeah.
But you've extended that now. So you're very much video focused. You've got Ask Alan, who's a wonderfully funny character and just given to you as what a gift to get as a four-wheel drive company.
Yeah.
But you've extended that, right? You've got Ask Alan Jr. Explain what you've got, because there's a suite of videos.
Yeah, there's over 100. So we do a different series each year. And to try and take it to the next level is never easy. Each year we sit down and say, okay, how do we take this to the next level? So we had, Junior Ask Alan, Terrain Tamer The Apprentice, where we took on 2 young female apprentices just because they were the best, not because they were female. And we had some grey nomads in there called Masterclass. And more recently, which is in the last 12 months, we found a young lady in Outback Australia where a lot of our customers were, and her name was Jillaroo Jess. She had a Facebook page and quite a following that we didn't really know about when we first started working with her. And so it's called Terrain Tamer Meets Jillaroo Jess, and we rebuild her 70 Series Land Cruiser and have a lot of fun doing it.
So you really have gone down, and you did from day one, video content strategy supported by a spokesperson, right? Which is really interesting, because I have a lot of small business owners come up to me and say, listen, you're talking about content, you're saying, Timbo, you're saying put yourself out there, become an opinion leader, a key person of influence, but I'm not comfortable with it. Some say, I don't want to be in front of the camera or behind the microphone. And having a spokesperson is an alternative, and that's clearly worked for you.
It has, a little bit by accident and a little bit by design. So Alan was a long-term employee of ours. He's been with us for 20 years, and for 20 years before that was the workshop next to us that helped us with R&D. And his early videos were terrible, by himself.
A bit like these early episodes of this podcast.
And we've all come a long way.
Can I just pause and say that anyone listening to this who wants to embark on this kind of strategy, your early stuff is going to be pretty average. And that stops so many people. But how else can you improve unless you start? So,
and you have a go at it. And for us, it was about having a second person with Alan. So if we put the camera on in front of him, he was by himself, he was terrible. He'd get into a monologue. But as soon as we had someone with him, it became a conversation. And he's quite a naturally funny guy. At the age of now 83, a lot of people say, oh, that's the highest risk strategy of all time. But for us, the bigger risk was not to take a punt and not to do these videos, and we've had a lot of fun along the way. So in this case, we've introduced another character being Jillaroo Jess.
Okay, hold the thought on Jillaroo. When you say another person with Alan, who is this other person? Is it someone that's off camera?
No, off camera doesn't work. I tried that, being that other person, and that didn't work either. So we put someone with him. So we've changed it a few times. In more recent episodes, we've put his nephew in there, who's and we got that idea from the TV show Good Chef, Bad Chef. So Alan did everything old school and non-OH&S. And Andrew Gray, his nephew, who's very, very good mechanic in his own right, was very much about doing things safely and more modern, and also gave a fresh approach to the brand. So their dynamic and interaction created a little bit more colour.
Again, finding these people who can actually represent themselves well on video. So Alan is made for it. Clearly his nephew is cut from the same cloth.
Yes, he keeps getting better and better each year that we do it. And I just discovered Andrew. We went four-wheel driving one weekend, and he was so passionate. And I thought, well, how about we trial it? And like anything, we did one episode, and it went okay. And we did two, and it got a bit better. And so now they look forward to it every year. They ring me and say, okay, when are we going away next? And when can we start?
Wow. So what you're doing is... Because there's two ways of doing this. I say to people, if you want to start a video strategy, get your iPhone out and do a quick video. It's a great place to start. You have gone so many levels above that, where you've got very high production values, and you sort of subscribe to the thinking of do less, but do very high quality. Is that what you're doing?
True. And sometimes I do look at a lot of people putting videos up every week. But I think the world's changed in particularly the last 2 or 3 years, where there's so much of that we've got to find a way to stand out. And for us, you're right, we started with DVDs in magazines and we moved away from that. But we got probably some good confidence out of that to go and then do our own. So we owned all the content. And it's a very high quality, but there's not really too many places in our industry where you can get such high quality free of charge without subscribing and paying big monies as a subscriber. So that's our strategy, and eventually it all leads back to Terrain Tamer and is of great benefit to the company.
Well, I'm very interested to know how all these fancy, beautiful, and they're funny, they're full of story, all these videos, how they actually convert into sales. But keep that till later. Let's explore one example, which is Jillaroo Jess. So, again, listeners, I mean, we're talking about video here, so Brent and I will try to be as, colourfully describe these things as we can. But you've got a series of videos which you've just embarked on with Jillaroo Jess, who's a truck driver, correct? Oh, very big trucks, by the way.
Yes.
Boy, oh boy. And you have chosen her to be a spokesperson for your brand. How did you find her?
From her trucking video. So she had a trucking video that went viral, and I often hear you refer in your podcast about viral videos. And this is someone who has been writing in different forms, and more recently in Facebook and now into other social media, for probably 7 or 8 years. So it's built up, but overnight, 12 months ago, 18 months ago, she did a video that went viral about trucking safety.
It was great.
Yeah, and so Jillaroo Jess...
It's very funny. I mean, let's describe that, because, again, viral videos, we all want one. But all she did was walk around a bloody big truck, sort of facetiously saying, these are very heavy, very hard. You don't want to be hit by one. These are big tyres, and kind of half funny, half serious, right?
Yeah, she says it comes down to sarcasm, but also the magic happened because she was just cut off moments before by a fall driver. And so she gets out her phone and takes everyone through a tour of her truck, explaining how big and hard they are to navigate. So don't go scooting on the inside lane to try and beat the truck. And she's got a lot of lives of cattle or sheep in that case to care for. And also truck drivers are human people. I personally think that video should be shown to every driver on their learner's permit, because I now have a second thought about passing a truck and making sure everything's safe before I do so.
Yeah, good point. So you found her through that video. You've approached her. What was the approach?
So I could see she had plenty of spunk and character. And that's all we needed with Alan. So I just simply wrote her a Facebook message and said, hi, Jess, my name's Brent. This is a little bit random.
Yeah. I'm not weird.
Yeah, because I'm sure she gets plenty of those. And I'm sure it was weird.
Quite an attractive truck driver.
Yeah, she's terrific. She's got plenty of character and comes across with all of that through the videos. But what vehicle do you drive? And she came back and said, I drive a 70 Series Land Cruiser, which is our prime customer base. And so from that point, I explained what we do, and we would like to, we call it Terrain Tamer Strong, or make her vehicle Terrain Tamer Strong. Would she be of interest? And every step of the way, it was very random for her, because she actually at the time was working on a cattle station that's the size of a small country in the Pilbara, or it's an enormous station, and so she drives a truck seasonally, and then works at a cattle station seasonally, and mustering and all sorts of things.
So she is ticking so many boxes for you, isn't she? You haven't had a female as a spokesperson.
Yeah.
She's got your dream four-wheel drive as her personal car.
Yep.
She probably loves to talk the weird talk that you blokes talk.
Yeah, she was interesting because she essentially represented the customer, but she could give as much as she got from Alan as well, and Andrew was there as well. But we literally all got in planes, flew to Perth and then to Karratha, and she met us at the airport and said, okay, let's get started. I didn't think this was actually going to happen, and for a week we filmed and we had a lot of fun, and we had drones in the air and some, a cameraman and an audio man and a producer, and we all just had a lot of fun for a week and put the series together.
Wow. Okay, so many questions there, Brent. I like, just digressing, you have a phrase, Terrain Tamer Strong. I like that. Is that something you've coined that is basically the outcome of being a customer of yours?
It's fairly recent. It's 6 months old. I like it as well. I think Jess actually referred to it on social media the other day, and I kind of liked someone else using it, and I think it's good because our parts aren't seen on the outside of the vehicle, so it's hard for people to say, oh, look, it has a a Terrain Tamer part, because we're all about keeping the vehicle strong underneath, like the gearbox and driveline.
I think there's a branding model called the Powerhouse. House of Brands, House of Brands, branded house, and the Powerhouse. And the Powerhouse one is like Intel inside, or, you know, your Skinny Milk or your Vitabrits has got a heart tick on it, right? And it's an endorsement. I can see Terrain Tamer Strong being almost like a stamp that you can somehow, you know, put on everything you do.
You're right. Yeah, my mind's sticking over.
Yeah, thank you.
Say that.
All right. Can we invoice Brent? Okay, so love that phrase. So, okay, you floated Karratha. I feel like there's something in between there. You can't just post a Facebook message and then hop on a plane to Karratha, because what you are doing is you're about to sign up someone to represent your brand. Did you do further checks? Did she check you out? Did you agree on a fee? How much was it? Is there a contract?
There's a lot of questions there, and they're good. I think with every relationship, particularly someone that's going to represent your brand, there's a huge element of risk. And I think you need to feel comfortable every step of the way. And with Jess, because you're right, I had to talk to her probably fortnightly and go through things. And being a truck driver or on a station, often she was out of mobile range and she would have to go to the top of a hill to give me a call back. And so there's a whole lot of challenges, but she was very fair and clear and honest all the way through, that I felt really comfortable all the way through. So we did sign a contract to make sure we could use her personality.
Is that a contract you've had drawn up by a solicitor, or is it?
It is. It was pretty simple. It was a one-page one, and I went through it with her, and she had some questions, and we changed some things at her request, which was fine. And so, but essentially, you have to be comfortable with the person. But to be honest, it started out as something small, and I allowed it to get larger because it worked so well. And to the point where it was never meant to be called Terrain Tamer meets Jewellery Jess, but as we discussed it and I would talk to her about it, it was just a great benefit for, I'd say, both brands, I guess, both people or both businesses.
They're both brands. One's a personal brand, one's a business brand.
Yeah, so I would like to think it's helped her just as much helped us, and she's been comfortable in that niche. And
what did you, up front, before you flew to the Pilbara, to Karratha, and spent a week shooting stuff, did you have a list of, like, this is what we want from you, Jess, in return for? Yeah,
so one great thing is we need a project vehicle that we're building. So then there's literally thousands of dollars worth of parts that goes on that. And I remember very early on her comment was, I would say, what's important to you? We're going to take essentially like 9 days of your time, and we were up at sunrise and down at sunset. So it's a huge amount of work for someone, yet alone, using their image and everything. And she said, my vehicle that's what my pride and joy. I said, well, great, you've come to the right place because we can make it Terrain Tamer Strong, as you said. And so that would benefit her far more than it would benefit someone off the CBD of Melbourne, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
So then we talk, we get the contract in place, we map out the episodes. We always try and do one or two extra because there's always things that go right or wrong during the shoot. But look, it went pretty well, other than it being, 35, 40 degrees most days.
Yeah, she's warm up there in the shade.
Mm.
So was the I don't know whether you can reveal how much you paid her, but I think it's really interesting for, a small business owner looking for a spokesperson. Was there a payment, or was it just getting a car Terrain Tamer Strong?
Really, to be honest, it was getting a car Terrain Tamer Strong. So and that was of great benefit to her. And like I said, it's probably worth a lot more to her than to the average person.
Uh-huh.
For us, it's good because it's product.
Uh-huh.
And then as we go further, we've had her at 4 drive shows. So then we discuss a monetary fee that she's comfortable with. It's pretty fair and reasonable. So and as we go forward, I think her brand is growing stronger and stronger. So it's better for us to be associated with her.
Yep.
And more benefits. So that will grow over time depending on where we go to from there.
So you go up there, you shoot a series of videos, which I think you're on to as we speak now. The second one has been released, is that
That's right?
Okay. So describe these videos for the listener.
So they go for about 7 or 8 minutes, and they're educational, but there's a lot of good humour. We allow, that it's probably good for our brand, or it is good for our brand. But they're also, Alan being 83 and Andrew being a very good mechanic in his own right, are able to teach Jess a lot of things along the way. She gets her hands dirty, but is not afraid to ask the silly questions along the way, which is great because so many of our customers, would love to ask those questions or hear the responses. And so we make the vehicle strong. We listen to her about what the challenges are. She's off-road most of the time because I think her driveway was 6 kilometres long. So we're not talking about something that, you pull into a...
I'm not putting the bins out tonight.
She made one reference to voting, and it had been raining a lot. So she couldn't get down the driveway without tearing it up because it's so muddy. But she had to vote or she would get fined. And you think about these people in outback Australia, as Malcolm Turnbull understands that the effort to vote, even to get, you can't just put it in the letterbox, you've got to get to town to post it, is not that easy. But these were great challenges that we came across and helped make her vehicle strong with stronger suspension.
So that's the outcome, is it? So Alan and nephew, what's his name? Andrew go in, and this time Jess is the customer, so to speak, and you work with her and her vehicle to get it Terrain Tamer strong. So she's there to represent your ideal customer?
Yeah, great. And look, there's even a backdrop to that, traditionally as an industry, we've been relied on mining, and there's no secret that Australia is going to be the food bowl of Asia for the next couple of decades at least. And so touching base with that rural customer is really not easy and really important for us, for a long-term strategy. Sure. And you'll be amazed how connected they are on social media, even more connected than we are in the city, because they have to, because they're so remote. So to have a spokesperson like that, using a vehicle that's ideal, helps us really touch into those customers in outback Australia, which are our core customer.
A lot of people listening are going, the spokesperson strategy sounds interesting. But you mentioned before there's a lot of risks associated with it. As the person responsible, do you just go, okay, well, the balance of probabilities, we've checked her out, she seems reasonable, she could go off and get drunk and have a terrible accident, that's a risk. I suppose there's risks of she could badmouth you if you did something wrong, how do you do you just go, you know what, I'm cool with it, I'm comfortable with it, I'm going to take that risk?
Well, I have a comment in our marketing is not to be vanilla. So the greatest...
Hallelujah!
Yes, so we can all sit back and not take a risk. And really, we're a family-owned business, so that's our great advantage over all the multinational, the publicly listed companies, is they would never do that. I remember saying that to Jess. I said, look, probably our risk would be that one of the listed companies would come in and offer you 10 times the price, because I'm sure you'd be worth it. And she said, you can tell those guys that wily old 83-year-old mechanics and what was the term? Crazy redheads are in short supply. So it was certainly something that is a risk, no doubt.
What are you saying the big companies wouldn't do? Because they're employing spokespeople all the time.
They are, but I'm sure when making those decisions, they have to go through a number of checks.
Oh, yeah. Gee, there'd be a lot of meetings.
Yeah, and so you've got to then justify, because they'd be thinking, what if things go wrong? I'm always thinking, what if things go right?
Go right, yeah.
What if this goes, And so suddenly we can do something that's really, really non-vanilla. And essentially you're trying to stand out in a crowded place, not just in our industry, but across all the social media content or ads. For me, we've got to find ways to stand out.
Oh, man.
And it's worked well. And like I said, we took baby steps initially, and it's grown into actually we're planning the next TV series with Jess.
TV?
Well, we call it Terrain Tamer TV because we do manage to slide it into within a show in Foxtel called 4-Wheel Drive Pro Tips.
Love it.
So, we're an advertiser of that show, and so we supply that content, and as part of that package, they look forward to seeing
let's talk about that. So what we've got so far is you've gone up, you've shot a series of videos with Jillaroo Jess in her hometown. They go on YouTube as a playlist, which is Terrain Tamer and Jillaroo Jess. That box is ticked. But now what you are doing is repurposing as much as you can, getting as much mileage, excuse the pun, out of these YouTube videos. So that's the kind of strategy. And one of these ways is to go and knock on the door of a TV show on pay TV.
That's right. And that's where the magic happens. We actually call it terraintamer.tv. So that is a page within our website, but suddenly you are crossing a line into being a media provider. And really the advertisers don't know how to categorize us because they love the content. It's not very, if you watch one episode, it's not very advertorial, but for me, it's far more powerful than someone sitting up there saying, you know, this is the latest and the greatest. And so suddenly when we introduce, we also went to our event. So we do a number of four-wheel drive shows around Australia. And we went to one of the groups and we said, we'd like to talk about it, the making of it. And they said, great, we'll put you up on stage. So suddenly it was Jillaroo Jess and Alan Gray from Terrain Tamer TV.
How was this?
And I was able to introduce them, and they were telling funny stories of working together and what it was like. And suddenly you cross into the media space. So suddenly they're no longer part of our company and an ad. They're part of Terrain Tamer TV, of which, you know, there's over 100 videos that go back 10 years. And then you go into a different category altogether.
So let's understand that blurred line, because I love that blurred line. Here you are as a business creating engaging, helpful, entertaining content that at the end of the day is there to sell. Not creating art. There is a commercial reality, right? Call to action at the end, visit Terrain Tamer, four-wheel drive, buy our stuff, correct? And now then you go off and you find people who would like that content, like the four-wheel drive show on pay TV, who are like, his intention is to promote his brand, but he's giving us this unreal content that we could really use as editorial.
You're right, and it is a blurred line, and they don't know where to put it.
I love it.
I actually contacted Virgin Australia because I caught the flight from Karratha with all these miners
Listening to this show, I hope.
Yeah, I'm sure they were, but they only have a limited time, and so I said, well, our show only go for 8 minutes, so if the plane is on descent, they can quickly watch an episode, and they didn't know how to put it, and they came back with a no, and then they kind of came back with a half yes, and at the moment it's probably no, but we're getting into that field of how far and wide can we stretch this? And like I said, Women's Day did an article on Jess and mentioned how Terrain Tamer TV came and filmed this TV show. So suddenly it was a double-page spread, and that was interesting. And then we sent out some boxes and some posters and poems, as you've seen, and to different places. And
well, let's just understand that again. Visual, we're looking at it now, but it's a cutout board of the two boys and Jess, and with a poem underneath, which you send to 500 four-wheel drive service centres around Australia.
That's right. And I actually, Alan's a bit of a wordsmith, and I knew he was quite good at poems, so I got him to write it. And it's quite entertaining and a bit of a laugh. And it's very carefully branded. You know, it's not in your face a great deal. It's designed to be a little bit of entertainment while someone's at an auto parts store, and they can see that something's happening at Terrain Tamer TV, and there's often 5 minutes gap while the person goes and picks the part. And so they on their phone, they can have a look, and that gets them hooked and gets them amongst it, and it's a little bit of fun along the way.
We'll put a photo of that in the notes to this episode. What in terms of repurposing, how much of it is the YouTube, is the show on YouTube, the playlist on YouTube, versus all the repurposing in terms of effectiveness? Is it the repurposing that really gets you excited, or is it actually just getting the show up on YouTube?
It's the repurposing is because that's endless on where it could be. So that is certainly exciting. I mean, we're on iTunes, so you know we load them on iTunes, and so people can follow them, which is useful for people travelling around Australia because often they're out of range. But finding ways to utilise that, we also play them in each one of our stores, so people walk to the front counter and they're playing them along. We have email outs. I heard you say that was quite old school, but you know, an email going out, giving them a video.
I don't mind email. Probably did say it's old school. Nothing wrong with it though. I mean, less and less. Well, I don't know. I think good emails still get noticed.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that is old school. We actually create a DVD and post that to each one of our subscribers. We have about 3,000 subscribers, like retail people. They've gone to the effort to fill in their details. And I always feel, you know, when you're a subscriber, you want to receive something. So not only do they get the email, but they get a physical DVD plus a little booklet from Ellen on how to look after your vehicle. And so many people come up to me at a show and say, I received that DVD last year and it's fantastic. And I show all my little kids and it helps them, again, travelling around Australia. They're often out of range, but they might have a DVD player and
Unreal.
Gets the message across.
I don't mind that old school stuff, you know? Why not? I mean, and I would imagine, you know, picking your audience, people who own four-wheel drive service centres probably are very old school.
They are. We, as an industry, we are slow to respond, which is great for us because you can then stand out amongst others in the industry. But also, you don't get much mail these days. And I'll tell you one thing that's interesting. I actually personally write to each one of our stockists to keep them informed, and I handwrite the letter. And so many of them comment and say, I haven't received a handwritten letter in years. And so by taking an extra couple of minutes, people that are very important to our business and help the whole wheel turn can be really, really important.
Again, love the old handwritten letter. How many are you writing?
When we have a new stockist, I ask for every staff member. So often they'll have, let's say, 5 or 7 staff members. And so we'll handwrite a letter to each one.
Wow. Hundreds.
Yeah, I'll do a couple a week, or let's say half a dozen a week.
I love it.
But it might take 10 minutes. But it's certainly in my mind, it's one way to make an impact.
So, okay, Brent, we've got these videos. You're repurposing. You're finding yourself at four-wheel drive shows. You're getting editorial in magazines. Your profile's growing. Jess is growing. I think you said that you quantified it by saying each of you got an extra 10,000 fans on Facebook as a result of the series.
That's right. Yeah.
That's good. Okay. Where's the money?
So we're very fortunate because you watch media companies put together series like this, and then they'll charge you $60 for a pack of either DVDs or digitally downloaded content. We can justify it by an increase in sales. So when we look at, say, Facebook, we had, I think, over 270,000 views on Facebook alone of the most recent one, which was all about suspension. Mm-hmm. So suddenly you need to increase that suspension category, and I watch it quite closely because I know that episode is about suspension, and then I'm watching that suspension, does it grow? And I'm pleased to say suspension sales are up 20 to 25%. And so then I can justify it, and everyone back in the office can see, okay, this is making an impact. I then look for what around me is changing and stories, and is Alan's profile growing? Is Jess's? And Jess rang me only a few weeks ago and said this lady in Karratha, her old hometown, came up and said, you're Jewellery Jess from Terrain Tamer, not Jewellery Jess from Jewellery Jess. So suddenly you're making an impact. That's on the other side of the country with people within that community and that target market.
But I want to understand, because, again, there's a lot of cynical business owners out there, some who are listening, that go, it's great, he's creating these beautiful videos, they're funny, you got all that. But how does suspension go up 25%? Because, the videos they're very soft sell. I think the call to action at the end is visit Terrain Tamer fourwheeldrive.com.au or something to that effect.
.tv.
.tv. There's no product, there's no price, there's no buy this, is there? So
we deal. Our currency is trust. So in the aftermarket, if people, first of all, you've got to be aware of us. So a number of people watching this would never have known that our suspension range exists. So we're increasing that substantially. Secondly, it's trust. And so we have an 83-year-old mechanic who worked on the very first Land Cruiser that arrived in the country 60 years ago. That's how far he goes back. And he's teaching them the ins and outs of suspension, showing Terrain Tamer suspension parts, and quite unassumingly pointing out key features that we've developed and quite innovative features that have led the industry in small areas. And then we do some product testing. So we're showing that Jess's vehicle is the difference between what it was and what it is super strong. So suddenly you're creating that. But you're right, there's an undercurrent there that it is aware, and then it's trustworthy. And then once that customer goes to choose suspension, whether it's in 12 months or 12 years, the Terrain Tamer is top of mind. So I know you'd love to say, for every $1 I spend, I received $4 back. But as I noted in a couple of your podcasts recently, marketing is about so many parts. It's really hard for us to departmentalize it and say, okay, we spent $1 here and we made $3 there. But certainly it is a core part of our marketing strategy for the next 12 months.
Well, music to my ears. I mean, I know there are marketers out there they've got it down to the point of they spend $1 on Facebook and they get 10 back. And I get that. And that's a secret formula. And, one day we'll expose it and we'll all understand it and happy days. But marketing is hard to compartmentalise. And, little bit here and a little bit. I always say, 1 and 1 at the end of the day equals 11 when it comes to marketing. Because one of your ideas alone is just a little idea. But when you do a whole lot of them, and now you've got a whole lot of them, you've got playlists, you've got all sorts of different videos out there, plus everything else you're doing, it adds up to a very big impact and a brand that you must be very proud of.
Yeah. And look, is marketing an art or is it a science?
Oh, gee.
And
bring in the experts.
And is our strategy for the next 5 minutes or for the next 10 years? Remember, we've been doing this for 10 years. Just this morning, I received an inquiry from Botswana. I asked him how he found us. He says he was watching Terrain Tamer TV. Now, that customer, for all we know, over the next 20 years could spend $1 million with us. Now, am I going to say, well, that X amount of dollars we spent in 2017 equated to that huge amount of money over the next 20 years? It's really hard to me to put together. But at the start of each year, I know how much money. Again, we're a family-owned business, so we don't have exponential income coming in that we can suddenly just write off to marketing and no one has to justify. I've got to justify everything. But I also share a lot of the wins along the way with everyone in the staff. And that's really important because I'm sure there's a lot of accountants and lawyers that go, hang on a second, what's this expense? And so if I can share that, then they can see the momentum and then you hear the stories coming back to you. And funny one I'll just share with you quickly. Alan, he's an old mechanic that was with us for a long time, no one knew about. Suddenly, over the last 10 years, people write to us all around the country. And his wife took his vehicle for a drive only a few months ago in the local supermarket. And the lady saw his vehicle, who was serving her, the checkout chick, and said, see that vehicle there? That's a famous man called Alan Grace. And Alan's wife, Sylvia, said, oh, really? She said, yeah, very famous. My boys and my husband, they watch every one of his videos. And Sylvia said, oh, I actually know him quite well. She said, really? You know him well? And Sylvia said, yes, I know him so well that occasionally I even sleep with him. And the woman was beside herself thinking, oh my gosh, who is this? And but suddenly, that's something that Alan would come back and tell me that we would never have heard of 5 or 10 years ago.
Oh, that's a great story. And you got to start somewhere. As you say, you don't know the Botswana inquiry. You don't know whether it was a recent video he watched or one that you'd created 5 years ago. And I think anyone listening to this, you got to embark on some content. You got to start creating your own media platform. If you don't want to be in it, then find a spokesperson. I'm glad we've had this conversation because it's a kind of strategy that we haven't kind of uncovered before, at least kind of gone into detail on. And it's absolutely valid.
Yeah, and like I said, not to be vanilla is not easy, and it's much easier to be safe and put the product up there, but to create character and flair means, and like you said, only 6 episodes over 12 months, so we release them every 2 months. Everyone wants them every week.
Scarcity.
Yeah, we're trying to go deeper with the customer rather than throw too many messages at them at once.
Yeah, and just to finish up, Brent, it must create, I'm going to use the word energy. I'm going to get all woo-woo on everyone, but it must create a certain energy and vibe inside of your business with you've got 135 staff, knowing that they're part of this brand that is really engaging and entertaining and much more than just a price and a product.
Yeah, it makes them proud. I was talking to one of our senior managers and he was at a party only a few months ago and Ron Barassi was at this party and he loves football and he was just 5 feet from Ron Barassi to go and say hello and have a chat to him, and a bloke stopped him and he said, you work at Terrain Tamer, don't you? He said, oh yeah, I happen to. Oh, Ron Barassi's over there. He goes, can you tell me about Alan Gray and Terrain Tamer? I watch all your videos and I've got your suspension and look, can I just talk to you about your steering? And he said, I'm at this party, I want to talk to Ron Barassi, and this bloke wouldn't leave me alone for an hour, and in the end I didn't get to talk to Ron Barassi, and he was rapt because this guy was more excited or as excited as he was. But you're right, it creates its own momentum and a lot of excitement and something that they probably wouldn't get elsewhere.
Good on you, Brent. I didn't get clear. How much is a video costing you? What are you spending?
Look, when you factor in everything, we would spend $10,000 on a video, and like I said, that would be that goes for say 8 minutes and seen 250,000 times. But we would more than substantially increase suspension, as a great example, that figure. And I know that for, in fact, short term. So then when we look long term, then it's well worth it. But like you said, it's only as good as far and wide as you can push it. If we sat back and thought it will do all the hard work itself, then it wouldn't be of great benefit. If we can get it into every platform we can and even push the likes of Virgin Australia, then it suddenly becomes really, really beneficial.
Wow, a great point to finish on. Market your marketing. You got to. Hey, buddy, where do people find these videos?
So terraintamer.tv is the easiest, and if they subscribe, they're first to see it. And really, whatever media they like to digest their videos from, iTunes or Twitter or Facebook.
Brent, thanks for coming back and sharing your story, mate. It's a great one.
No worries, Timo. That's been exciting, and it's great to follow yourself and your journey as well.
Good on you. Well, there you go, team. Brent Hutchinson of Terrain Tamer 4-wheel drive. Hopefully you are a lot clearer on how you might be able to utilise a spokesperson strategy in your marketing. I know I've been asked many times about it. Bottom line, I'd prefer you, the business owner, to be in the front of your marketing, but, no hard and fast rule. If a spokesperson idea works for you, then go after it now that you've heard that chat. Coming up, I'm going to share my top 3 attention grabbers having spoken to Brent. Plus, in this week's Ignite Your Site segment, you're going to discover why you should ignore those spammy emails offering cheap search engine optimization solutions and what you can do about it.
Here's a money-making tip from American Express member and Four Pillars Gin founder, Stu Gregor.
I, for the life of me, don't understand why a business won't accept Amex, because what you're potentially doing is knocking back customers who want to spend money on your product or your brand or your service or whatever it is. And I frankly don't understand it. If someone wants to give me their Amex and buy 10 bottles of gin, I tell you what, I'll take their Amex, thanks very much. You're potentially also denying yourself a big chunk of corporate business as well. Because a lot of sales guys, I know me in my own business, I use Amex. And if I go to if I ring to make a booking at a restaurant or a bar or something, I say, do you accept Amex? And they say no, I go somewhere else. So they don't even know the business they're missing out on. It beggars belief. And I often find myself having these rather awkward conversations at the with a shopkeeper or a bar owner or a restaurateur saying, why wouldn't you take it? I'll pay you the extra. I'll pay 1.5, the credit card service fee or whatever you want. Take my money.
It's Business 101, really. Make it easy for people to give you money. Speaking of money, the American Express Business Explorer credit card comes with 50,000 bonus points every year, a low interest rate, and 2 points on every dollar you spend. Not to mention a couple of tickets to the very swish Amex Lounge at Sydney International Airport. Search Amex Business to find out more. New American Express card members only. Terms and conditions apply.
Righto. Well, normally it's a top 3 attention grabbers, but this time, top 5 attention grabbers from my chat with Brent Hutchinson of Terrain Tamer 4-wheel drive, thanks to American Express. Attention grabber number 1. I love the line, Terrain Tamer strong. It's so emotive. It says everything about the end benefit of using Terrain Tamer parts. It's very clever, because all the parts live under the car and no one gets to see them. So I love that line on a sticker, tagline, under the logo, anywhere. Terrain Tamer strong. Brilliant. Attention grabber number 2. I love Brent saying, don't be vanilla in your marketing, quote unquote. Boy, oh boy, singing from my songbook. You got to get noticed, guys, for all the right reasons, but just don't do what everyone else does. Attention grabber number 3 is your marketing strategy for the next 5 minutes or the next 5 years. I love the long-term view Brent has around his marketing. I see a lot of desperation sometimes around marketing from small business owners who are doing something today with the hope of getting an inquiry tomorrow. I get that, but also look a little bit further over the fence, beyond this today, tomorrow, next week. Not 5 minutes, but 5 years. Attention grabber number 4. Avoid advertorial. Tell, don't sell is my favourite quote around that. But when you are creating this great, helpful content, be editorial in nature, not advertorial. And attention grabber number 5, handwritten letters to stockists. Genius move, shows you care, gets you noticed in a world of, craziness, busyness, sameness. I love that strategy. They're the 5 things that grabbed my attention. What grabbed yours? smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/403 is where you can leave your thoughts.
Ignite your site.
You know, with so many underperforming business websites out there, this segment, well, it's laser focused on ensuring yours is not one of them. To get your website found and your phone ringing, we're joined by Dave Jennings of melbourneseoservices.com. DJ, what is on your mind?
Timbo, I am getting so many of these $99 per month SEO spam emails.
Spam.
They guarantee me number one positioning.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating the hell out of me. And I know I'm not alone. I'm sure every business owner is getting these. Do you get them?
Well, I get them. I get spam emails offering me everything. Some of it's quite exciting. But the reality is, with SEO, you get what you pay for. And $99 may cause more trouble than they're worth, right?
It's not going to cover it. And the sad thing is, it must be working. Someone is replying. That's why they keep on sending these emails.
I'm going to guess it's a numbers game, but there's a whole lot of business owners listening to this who are uneducated around SEO, who are getting these emails. What should they do?
Well, they should start off by understanding that SEO isn't right for everybody. That's the first thing. So you actually have to think about your business.
Right.
Understand how much competition you've got. What products and services are you selling? What is the price point? And how many products and services do you need to sell just to reach break even on the cost of getting some good SEO done? And then that helps you to determine, does SEO make sense? Like, that's really where you should be starting.
So there's a bit of work to be done before you even go down that path. So what should listeners do? They should, I would first of all suggest they read your book, Authority Content.
I reckon that's the best place to start, because at least then you can make sure when you do drive traffic to your website that it's going to convert really highly. Happy to give copies away to the listeners as a freebie. I think the last episode we got some great feedback. So I've set up a page. You can get my book, Authority Content. It's an Amazon bestseller and it's free as part of this promo. Just head to authoritycontent.com/Timbo.
Brilliant, mate. And DJ, if people do have a whole lot of questions around SEO, I imagine they can contact you through that site?
Yeah, contact page on authoritycontent.com.
There you go, team. That is just one more way to
Ignite your site.
I do love that Ignite Your Site segment. Hopefully you are getting benefit from it as well. If you listen to all Dave's tips, and there's plenty more to come, then your website is going to be infinitely better than it was before you started listening. Ignite Your Site. Head over to Melbourne SEO Services. Check them out too. You know, I get a lot of people ask me how I choose my guests. Well, I do have a criteria, which is basically a successful business founder who's got an interesting growth story and has used marketing to help them get there. But sometimes I, and some would say selfishly, reach out to business owners who've built brands that I love. Examples include, and these are past interviews, Declan Lee of Gelato Messina, Daniel Wilson of Huckster Burger, love Huckster Burger, and Jamie Cook of Stone and Wood, just voted the second best craft beer in Australia. I think I've got all the food groups covered there. Ice cream or gelato, beer, burgers, nailed it. You'll find those interviews plus hundreds more over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, or you can subscribe free on your favourite podcast app, which means that you will never, ever miss another episode. Hey, I'd love to hear from you. Hit the contact button over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, where you can email me, connect with me on social media, and grab a signed copy of my book, The Boomerang Effect, which promises to turbocharge your marketing. Big thanks to American Express Business Explorer credit card for making this show possible. They have an exclusive sponsorship throughout the next 5 episodes. I think you're going to love that. One sponsor, hey? Search Amex Business to find out how you can get your business expenses to reward you. If you love the Small Business Big Marketing Show, and why wouldn't you? Episode 403, you know, we're getting something right by now, one would hope. Then let another business owner or 3 know about it by grabbing their phone and downloading it for them. Even if you have to hit play, and as you walk away, they're listening to my dulcet tones. Until next week, I am Timbo Reid, always have been, always will be. Thanks for tuning in. May your marketing be the best marketing. Bye for now.